Hey everyone, Sensei Cole Stanley here, student First Martial Arts and Fitness located in Monroe, North Carolina. This is a judo dojo, and I wanted to share my experience of making a raised floor system. Because we all know that because of the impact of judo, it's always nice to have a floor system that it's easier to land on. So this is how I did my floor system. Obviously, if you have any questions about the process, you could reach out, you could see what I did, you could ask specific questions, and I'll be happy to help you. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you a couple things that I've purchased so far. The first item that I want to discuss and kind of the underlayment of this floor system are these super blocks. I picked them up from Fuji Mats. It is a company owned by Jimmy Pedro, who was a judo Olympian. So thank you so much, Fuji Mats, for providing these blocks to me. I mean, I had to buy them, obviously, but supposedly these are supposed to be pretty good for these foam floor systems, and I really hope that they end up doing the job. As you can tell, they're roughly about this big. The cool thing too about these super blocks is on Fuji Mats' website, they have plans and instructions in detail of how to install these onto your dojo floor in order to get this raised floor system to have a safer environment for judo. The next item I picked up was this subflooring plywood. So I went with 19/32 thick 4x8 sheets. This is going to be the first piece of wood that's going to be connected to these foam blocks. I've made my template out of the leftover insulation that I had, and I've secured it to a piece of plywood with clamps. Now I'm going to measure where I need to put these super blocks, again, from Fuji Mats. The cool thing about this, and I have to say, I'm not promoting them. I'm not getting paid by Fuji Mats, anything like that. I'm just letting you know how the process went for me. But on the Fuji Mat website, they actually have a diagram that shows you how to install the super blocks, which is awesome. It makes it easy. And I'm going to follow along with the template that they had made already online, again on Fuji Mats' website. So I have it pulled up on my phone. Now I'm going to start measuring out where I need to put these super blocks. As you can see, I've laid out the pattern on the template, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my razor knife here, and I'm going to score this template so that I can mark each placement for the foam blocks with a marker. So I'm going to score these, and what I mean by score is I'm going to create an X here. And then when I'm ready to mark out on the piece of plywood where I'm going to use each block, I'm just going to make a mark right there inside of the X. Now this doesn't have to be perfect exactly, it just has to be close because these foam blocks are decently large. I'm going to go get one and I'm going to show you what they look like. So as we have here, these are the foam blocks. So they are 4" by 4" by 2" thick. So ideally, they don't have to be perfect on the template as long as they're spread out decently evenly, because according to the website, I want to use either 27 or 33 blocks per sheet of plywood. I decided to go with 33. I am using a decently thick piece of flooring, so I just figured it'd be better to use 33 blocks per sheet instead of 27. Also, you can only order in packs of 200 and 400. I mean, maybe you can order a different way, but that was the suggested amount. So 400 was just about right for what I needed. If I went with 27 per sheet, I would have almost 150 leftover blocks. So I went ahead and did 33 per sheet. Okay, I used my template and I went ahead and marked 33 spots on this piece of 4x8 plywood. For some of you that might not be familiar with plywood, one side of the plywood is smoother than the other side. They're both rough-ish, but one side is smoother to the touch. I decided to glue these pieces of foam onto the smooth side of the plywood because I think it's going to get a little bit of a better stick and a better contact than it would be on the rough side. As far as the glue that I decided to use, I did the Gorilla Glue Heavy Duty Constructive Adhesive. So we'll kind of see how that goes. So I'm going to start gluing these pieces. And again, these dots on here are just markers. They do not have to be exact because again, we're working with 4x4 pieces of foam. And there's 33 of them. So as long as I have them decently spaced evenly, I'm going to be okay. So let's start gluing. Okay, here's what a completed piece of plywood looks like with 33 blocks. My next step is to start stacking them. I've started laying down the flooring system. We've already seen the foam blocks that are glued to the plywood. On the exterior of the floor, I did 2x6s. And what I did was for spacing purposes, just put some shims between the wood and the barrier around the edge. Because I don't want a whole bunch of rubbing. And also I know things are going to shift and things are going to move slightly. So I want it to have a little bit of wiggle room. And then also if I have to adjust anything in the future, I can. I just got done clearing out an area, so now I'm going to sweep the floor clean and I'm going to show you how I lay out a row. Enjoy! Woo! That was almost too much like work. Now, a couple things that I wanted to say is, number one, after I glued on these super blocks, it really makes the plywood slide a lot easier on the floor. And I use Gorilla Glue to connect the foam blocks to the plywood, and it really has held these blocks in place really well. The all-purpose caulking style in the tube Gorilla Glue. And then the second thing that I want to say is for the floor, I decided to do dimensions that were equivalent to my sheets of plywood. So I'm going 3 wide and 8 deep. So that ends up being 24 feet wide because I have 3 sheets of plywood that I don't have to do any cutting, and 32 feet long, which again, I don't have to do any cutting because the plywood is 4 foot by 8 foot. So I decided to do it that way to make it easier. Now when I do, let's see, that would be 1, 2, 3. When I do the 4th layer, I see how you could see 4. When I do the 4th layer of the thinner plywood, which I have not purchased yet, but I'm going to, I will have to cut that a little bit because according to the specs that I got off of Fuji Mats, you don't want to just lay sheets on top of each other and have the same butting points, the same overlapping points. So I have to kind of stagger the plywood whenever I go back and actually add that 5th layer. So again, that's just something I did. I will have to cut the 2x6, but I didn't have to cut any of this plywood. And also, this first layer that I did over here, or this boundary that I did along the edges, this is 12 foot 2x6s. So again, it's 24 feet. So I don't have to do any cutting of this side. I will have to do a little bit of cutting on the long side, but I didn't have to do any cutting. So I made it a little bit easier. I guess I'm just going to kind of see what it's like when I put the mats on there. I did not measure the mats exactly. So I might have to, fandangle that a little bit, but we'll get to that step when we get there. So thanks again for checking this out. So here we are about to secure the 2 sides of the frame together. And again, I'm using these elbow joints. They're in the shape of a capital letter L. Got these at Lowe's. And I'm going to do two of these little elbow joints, these brackets. And I'm going to secure both sides of this together. As you can see here, my boards don't line up. So I have to make a little bit of a cut on this board on the back side of the frame. So just like I did on the sides to where the plywood is coming up to that edge of this outside area, this box that I've made around the entire mat area, I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap. I'm saying just maybe like a 1/16 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, just so stuff can move a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and score this by hand. I'm going to go ahead and mark that by hand, and now I'm going to cut it. overall, I think the job is going pretty well. I just started laying down the second layer of plywood, so this would be layer 4. So we did the foam blocks, 19/32 plywood, carpet pad, and now we have 7/16 plywood. So according to some of the guidelines that I got off of FujiMats.com, was you don't want to line up the pieces of plywood to where the seams overlap on the same exact seam. So what I did is I took plywood and I did a 2-foot rip so that when I lay full pieces of plywood, they don't lay directly on another seam. They're going to actually come over the seam. So the seams of the first layer of plywood and the seams of the second layer of plywood do not lay on top of each other. They have to be staggered. So I'm going to go ahead and start laying down some full pieces of plywood.
She goes over and over little events in her life, reliving her successes and suffering through her failures all over again.
The next step in the process is securing both of the plywood layers together, because I do want to make this a solid foundation to where I don't get a ton of movement. So what I did, I had some leftover 2 1/4 inch drywall screws that I'm going to use. So it don't really matter. Just make sure that when you get the screws that they're long enough to penetrate both pieces of plywood. But underneath the plywood, where the super blocks are, we have quite a bit of room. So 3-inch screws will work. But again, I got 2 1/4 inch because that's just what I had laying around the house. So let's get to screwing the pieces of plywood together. How exciting. We have the raised floor system complete. So if you notice, I did 2 separate mats personally. The blue mats, which are, I believe they're 1.5 inch puzzle mats made by Century. Those ended up being broken in a little bit, and man, they are so much softer whenever you do break falls. These black mats are 1 inch, I think they're called polypropolene. I can't remember exactly the name, but these are new. And while it'll probably take a little bit of time to break them in, they are a little rough to slap when it comes to the break fall. But yeah, this is the completed setup. I think it turned out great. And I've already hosted a couple classes in here, and man, this raised floor system really works great. So, thank you for tuning in. Again, my name is Cole Stanley, 2nd degree black belt in judo, Monroe, North Carolina, student first, martial arts and fitness. If you like this video, please share, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, because I want to continue to spread this positive and good information about judo. Thank you so much. Please feel free to check out one of these videos posted here if you want to follow along with what I'm doing and keep supporting me. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.